Today, I'm in bluegrass country, right outside the birthplace of President Abraham Lincoln here in Hardin County, Kentucky, where Sheriff John Ward has been integrating drones into their department. So I'm going to meet with this program manager, Sergeant Travis Cook, to find out how they're utilizing drones to make their operations safer and more effective.
So I'm Sergeant Travis Cook. I work for the Hardin County Sheriff's Office. I've been here about 5 years. Prior to that, I worked about 21 years at the Louisville Metro Police Department, and I retired there in August of 2019, and then that's when I come over to the Sheriff's Office.
And what are some of those programs that you oversee?
So currently, I'm the day work patrol sergeant, and I oversee the accident reconstruction side of things and also our drone program. So been pretty fortunate in all those aspects. Lucky for me, I work for a forward-thinking sheriff, and he's the one that actually come to me about the drone program. And my initial response was that there's no place in police work for kids' toys, right? Man, was I wrong. Okay, and lucky for me, again, John, phenomenal man, forward thinker. He's like, man, I think this is an avenue we need to approach. So we did. Obviously, we started off with a Matrice 300 and H20T, and I can honestly say, looking back now, I would, without a doubt, give you my handcuffing guns before I give you that Matrice. It's that valuable tool to us. I mean, not only does it make us more efficient, more productive, but it allows us to service the community in a lot faster response time. So if it's a matter of human life or public safety, minutes count. That's where the Matrice comes into play, and it shaves a lot of time off how we do business.
And that's a pretty powerful statement about the importance that this tool has become in law enforcement. And we're seeing it de-escalate incidents all across the country to where agencies have changed their tactics. They're not doing dynamic entries with the SWAT team anymore. They're instead sending a robot in, and we're seeing a lot of great successes where peaceful surrenders are happening to a drone rather than, the suspect or the officers getting in a position of danger. How have you guys been able to see some of that de-escalation here?
The drone allows you to see things that you couldn't see before, right? So with that tool in play, we don't necessarily have to put a deputy in harm's way. We can send a drone into that hazardous situation without the risk of harming a deputy. We can send that drone to do overwatch where it could be a de-escalation situation. And we've had those situations, and lucky for us, we had that tool in our tool bag that we was allowed to implement and not put somebody at risk, not put the public at risk, not put a deputy or a trooper at risk. Again, it's been a phenomenal tool for us.
So specifically to that, you had one specific incident where you had an active shooter, and in fact the drone was involved and became more involved. Can you talk to me more about that?
Absolutely. So June 2023, almost a year ago now, we had a situation out in the county. As the deputies arrive, they start taking fire from the suspect that's involved in this incident. There's no good avenue of approach on this gentleman. So I'm going to fly a couple of streets over. We're going to get eyes on this guy and try to gather whatever intel we can on this guy, and we're going to formulate a plan of action. Right? He has an AR-15 slung across his chest with about a 100-round drum mag on it. And what he would do is the units, whether it be deputies, troopers, or whoever tried to approach this dwelling, he would just lean out, take a peek shot, and just start popping rounds off of him. So this goes on for about 2 or 3 hours. As I get ready to leave the scene and come back to where our rally point, he leans out the garage and takes that AR with that 100-round drum mag, and he just unloads on the drone. Unfortunately for us, we took 5 rounds to the drone. So at that point, I'm trying to switch over from the H20 payload to the FPV camera to see what's going on. And as I'm doing that, I'm starting to get critical flight. I'm getting low altitude warnings. I'm getting all these warnings coming up on the controller. Hits it 2 more times. The last round, the 5th round, actually goes through the left front prop into the left front prop motor, locking that motor up. By that point, I've actually switched over to the FPV camera. And at the time of the incident, I'm 96 feet out from the house, 124 feet in the air. The drone basically counter-rotated and set right down on the ground. The H20T, again, it was severed from the aircraft. It fell about 124 feet. Miraculously, we and you helped with this process, obviously. We had an opportunity to attach that H-20 to another aircraft here, and lo and behold, with a few adjustments, it's back in business. So I think that says a lot for the quality of the product that DJI is putting out in the field. For a camera,
Wow.
amazing.
That's an amazing story, again, as you said, for the product, but also, the type of incident that you were able to utilize that product on. How do you think the incident would have played out had you not been able to have a drone?
Drastically different, obviously, right? He had all the advantage, we had none, right? We didn't have a good tactical advantage. We had no avenue of approach. This guy had all the cards, right? The Matrice 300 leveled that playing field. Now we have eyes on him with the FLIR or thermal capability, and it was a cool night. That night I could see him moving from the garage into the house. He would take a high point in an upstairs bedroom where he had an even better tactical advantage now because he's elevated, right? And without that tool, we would have been blind going into that situation, right? And did we lose a Matrice 300 that night? Absolutely, but we didn't put any officers or deputies in harm's way. And it was all because of 300. And we had resolution too, because now we had enough intel that we had collected before the incident of the drone being shot down that we could formulate a tactical plan of approach and get in there and get this guy and eliminate this problem that was unfolding rapidly before we got there with the Matrice.
One, it's good to know civilians. He didn't take the life of any civilians. He didn't take the life of any officers. But then, at the end of the day, he's alive as well. Would you say partly because the drone, again, gave you that tactical advantage to change your approach to the incident that even protected his life?
Absolutely. Because, again, without any kind of intel gathered by the Matrice 300, I think there would have had to been a much more aggressive approach. Not that it wasn't aggressive. We had a guy we collected over 100 and something shell casings that night, right?
Yeah.
But yes, not only did it save the lives of officers and deputies and troopers, but I think it helped save his life too at the end of the day. I really do.
Yeah. So what other operations are you seeing successes with the drones in your fleet?
Let me say this, I can't tell you of any failures. How's that? With tremendous success. From the time we put it in service in the summer of 21, and we went from one Matrice 300 to we're flying 5 different aircraft now. It's the fastest growing entity within this agency. And I can tell you success story after success story. We had a train derailment here in the county. We don't know what's on that train. The train people are not talking to us, right? Because they got to do their own investigation. And so instead of deputies physically walking that railhead, we fly the Matrice down there. And when we get to a rail car that has a placard on it, we pan left, we get that placard number. I give it to the fire guy behind me, and he says, hey, nay, whatever it is, and we go to the next rail car. And we never have to put a deputy in harm's way. Not only that, let me add this too, that train was over 2 miles long. How long would it take us to walk that railhead?
Yeah.
So, again, I can go on and on about success stories, and I can tell you this, other than me losing a 300, and again, we'll lose a 300 all day long when it comes to human life, right? Small price to pay, but I haven't had any failures, Ronnie.
That's great to hear. What challenges do you experience, would you say, whether that be internal to the agency, external to the community, or beyond? What kind of challenges do you see out there?
I think funding is really our only challenges, and then, legislation, obviously. The community is very receptive of it. They're all about it. Matter of fact, we had outside partners fund our first 300. Obviously, aircraft are not cheap. They cost a lot of money. But again, I work for a guy that is very open. He's very technology driven. If it makes it safer, faster, and we're more efficient, he's all about it. So, I can say funding is a problem, but I assure you I get my fair share of it too. And lucky for me, lucky for the guys that work for me, and lucky for the people of Hardin County, because it's an asset for all of us, right?
When you mention legislation, are you able to talk much about your challenges with legislation?
Well, I think anyone that's got just a little bit of time in this industry knows that there's outside forces putting pressure on companies such as yours, DJI, that and I think there's a lot of bad information, false information that is being levied to Congress that And I'll give you an example of this. And I know that there's nothing that I'm going to see with your product that, Wayne, you couldn't sit down at my desk and see with Google Earth, right? Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing about collecting information and sending it off to China because they're doing some kind of espionage or trying to gather intel in the United States, man, it's hard for me to get behind that kind of thinking. It really is, because it's a valuable asset. And here's my thoughts on that. And I'm biased. We fly all DJI product, but I will say this. And I've testified in a few of these things, and this is what I told Congress, or the Congressional Hearing Panel, that, yeah, there's products out here that you think we should buy, and then there's products out here that really fit my needs. And that's where we're at with DJI, and that's why we're driven, I don't want to say straight down the DJI path, but we are, because the product it checks all the boxes that I need, and it does it for a fair price point. And not only that, the technical support that comes along with that product is bar none, by no shortcomings, the best that there is.
What other thoughts do you have about the drone industry as it relates to public safety and what might be the future out there?
Obviously, this industry is evolving fast. And, as you come from the fire industry, Wayne, you started off before there was even any federal regulations to fly a drone. And just the short time we've been in the industry, it's evolved so much. Again, summer of 21, we was flying one aircraft. Here we are the summer of 24, and we're flying 5 aircraft, and we fly them a lot. So, that's a good question. I don't think I have an answer for you, but I know it here at this office, it is the fastest growing entity we have.
Do you have any advice for those agencies that might be looking at a drone, that some of them may be encountering chief officers with a similar attitude you had at the beginning of, this is not something we need. We need, other tools more importantly.
Right. Well, I can say this, it's definitely not a kid's toy, right? It's a tactical tool that you need in your tool belt. If you don't have one, you need to be seeking out some way to secure one. It's that valuable a tool. Again, I say it jokingly, but at the end of the day, I'm not. I could leave my gun and my handcuffs at home and do my job just fine with a flashlight, right? I don't need that gun, and I don't need those handcuffs, because I can probably talk my way through whatever situation. I can't talk my way through a barricaded subject that has a vantage point where I have no avenue of approach without that Matrice 300. And it's that valuable. Once you have it in play, it's going to be one of those things that's like, wow, how'd I get by without it? It's that drastic of a game changer.
So literally, while we were at Hardin County filming this with Sergeant Cook at the time, he was actually that day going through the interview process for Lieutenant. So I would like to congratulate now Lieutenant Travis Cook, Hardin County Sheriff's Office.